Hi, it's Michelle from Bits and Pieces Paper Lab, and today we're going to be making this cute little Valentine lantern shaker card. I am just obsessed with shaker cards, so I keep coming up with different reasons to make them. But this one has a cute little lantern shaker on the front and then a sweet little message inside. So let me teach you how to make this. This file is available for $1. If you head to the link in the description, you'll be able to grab it. It basically just covers the cost of the download. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is assemble our little shaker. So what's unique about this is that the shaker part is actually separate from the card base. We're basically going to make the shaker and then attach it to the card. So it has a little loop up here. You could actually use it as a tag if you want. Just kind of depends on what you'd like. You can make the shaker and then adhere it to a card or leave it as a tag. So we're first going to make the shaker part of the card. And you'll want to cut this little window. This is acetate, and then this little piece slides over the top. So the first thing we're going to do is adhere this together. Now, one trick with adhering acetate is that the ink, if you use liquid adhesive, it doesn't soak into the acetate like it does normal paper. So you have to be really careful and use your glue very sparingly, because otherwise when you press the acetate down, it will smush out. So the weirdest thing has happened. My Barely Arts glue has completely disappeared and it's driving me crazy. I've looked everywhere for it and can't find it. So I am using my Tombow Mono Adhesive liquid. This is actually my first love, my glue that was my first love. But I switched over to Barely Arts just because I like the precision applicator, but this stuff works really great too. So I accused everyone in my family and no one took my glue. I did it nicely though, even though inside I was thinking, I know you did it, but I didn't say it out loud. I just was like, hey, you haven't seen my glue, have you? So nobody fessed up. All right, so I'm going to very carefully just push this down. I don't want that glue to blob out. All right. Okay, so we're going to set that aside to dry while we work on the next part. Now I want my shaker to have a little bit of dimension. The way the shaker actually works is by making, I guess you could call it like a little moat that the shakers go in. So we do that with foam tape. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually I want to adhere this red piece onto the white backing. So these two pieces line up exactly, but the red piece is missing the center part. So let's first do that. I'm going to grab my adhesive strips. Just place a bit of adhesive. Along the sides and on the bottom. And then I have one more little piece. Let's put that on the top. Perfect. Okay, now I can peel off my backing. And then we'll place the red piece on top here, just making sure I've got everything really lined up. Before I push it down. All right, so now we have a dimensional little shaker piece, but we need to make the little foam moat that the shaker bits are going to go inside. So I'm going to do that with foam tape. Now it's a little tricky when you're working with something that's like shaped like this. So you have to work in kind of small pieces of the foam. Just making sure that every time you have a new connection that it's nice and tight, that you're not letting any like loose little cavities, because your sequins will just slip right out. Every time you tear a piece off and start a new little piece, just make sure that your pieces are nice and tightly stuck together, which can get a little bit tricky. You're going to leave the backing on the foam strips because you don't want to peel that off until you've got your shaker bits inside. Otherwise they will stick to the foam adhesive. So that's the last step we do. So I'm just working around here, making a little wall for my sequins, my shaker bits. I'm lining it up right against the edge of the white piece. That's kind of my guide, shows me where I need to put it, because when I place this over it, it's going to cover that up. All right. Okay, so we've got all of our foam adhesive. I'm going to really push that down, make sure everything's sealed good. And now I'm going to put my shaker bits in here. Before I add my shaker bits, I need to put the little candle piece inside the window. So I'm going to do that just by placing a bit of glue on the back of my candle. And your candle piece has one edge that's kind of curved. That's the top. So place a bit of glue on here and stick that in. And then the little heart flame has two pieces. So the first one I cut out of glitter. I thought that was kind of cute. And then the next layer is just gold cardstock. But yellow works too. So I'm just gonna layer those up like that for my little flame. And now we are ready to add our shaker bits. So I have this little set. It's Happy Hearts Toppings by Queen & Company, and it's all different kinds of colors of little clay hearts, which I just love. Just making sure I'm getting them all inside. And how full you want to fill your shakers up to you. I like to leave mine a little bit looser so that there's room for the shaker bits to move around, but some people like to just fill it all the way full. So I'm going to put a few pink ones in there too. And then I also have some little red seed beads, red and white. So I'm just going to sprinkle a few of those in just to give it something kind of different. Those will be nice and loud when they shake, which is really what you want in a shaker card. Okay, so we've got our little shaker bits in there. And now we're going to very carefully peel off the foam tape backing. This is where things can go terribly wrong. If you bump it the wrong way, your shakers will go everywhere and get stuck to your foam. So you want to be really careful at this part. I'm actually sweating a little bit. It's kind of hard to do this on camera and not mess it up. Okay, I'm almost there. So far, so good. All right. Okay, we've got all of it peeled off, and now it's time to adhere this. So the side that we put the glue on is the bottom. We're gonna flip it over. We're gonna very carefully place this so that it covers up all of the foam. And sandwiches all those little shaker bits inside. Now, before you flip this over with your finger, run your finger all the way along each edge. Just make sure that it's sealed really good because you do not want those little pieces to leak out. Okay, I think we're good there. So let's test the shake. Looks good. Now this is the point where you could use it as a tag if you wanted and just dangle it from a gift from the little hook, or you can adhere it to the card. So I'm gonna tie a little bit of twine around the top here. Do you guys make Valentine's cards? I know when my kids were little, I would always kind of try to make funny ones. Now my daughter's in college, so it'll be fun to send one to her. My son probably does not care all about a Valentine from his mother, but he's gonna get one, so. All right, I'm gonna trim those little ends. Okay, now we can adhere this to a card. And I am using 12 by 12 cardstock shops Encore paper. I'll put a link to this in the description, but it cuts so well. I'm like in love with the paper. I feel like you can't cut things too small for it. It just always works. So I've got lots of adhesive on the back of that, and I'm gonna put it on my little card front. All right, now we've got two little hearts, so I'm gonna get those on here. And there, you'll find 3 hearts in the file. The 2 bigger ones go on the front of the card, and then the tiniest one is the eye from the inside. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this adhered. I don't know how you feel about liquid adhesive, but I really just, there's some circumstances where I like to use like a tape runner, but I'm really in love with liquid adhesive. I like that it gives you a second to move it around. So like if that heart wasn't quite right, I have just a moment to move it around before it's stuck forever. All right, so now let's work on the inside of the card. And the pieces for this, there's a layering piece, and then the black letters, those are loose. And then this light up is one solid cut, and that gets mounted on a darker pink. So I'm just gonna work from the top down. I'm gonna start with my little light up word, and I'm gonna get some adhesive on the back of this. These tiny little pieces is where I miss my Bearly Arts, because that precision tip is just so good at putting glue down. Before Bearly Arts, I actually would like make a little puddle of glue, which you could totally do this if you don't have Bearly Arts. Make a little puddle of glue, and then I would use a toothpick to dab into it. And that was my little trick to get the really fine little adhesive spots. So now let's put the little heart dotted I right there. Okay, now this whole thing is going to get mounted onto the backing piece, but I am going to use a little bit of foam. I want to have some dimension on that just to kind of pop it up a little. It's always tricky deciding how much dimension to use. If you want to mail a card, you have to be kind of careful, because the thicker it gets, the more it's going to cost you to mail it. So luckily this one is being hand delivered, so I don't have to worry about it as much. But if you're mailing it, you might want to skip the foam for that part. All right, we've got that. And then all the little layers, these are all loose. The little you and my life. And you can see in the backing, this is one of the reasons why when I'm designing, I really like to kind of have a an offset layer, because you can pretty easily tell where these go. You can kind of just follow the outline. But do you see what I mean? You can kind of line up. You can see that's where the bottom of the Y needs to go, and it's pretty easy to line them up. So I'm going to work through my letters here, and then I'll be back with you. All right, so I've got all my little letters on there, and now I'm going to take my sentiment and adhere the whole thing to the inside of my card. This is something I've been doing recently, is decorating the inside of my cards. I didn't for a long time, but I really like the look of it. So I am going to just add that in. Leave a little spot for a sentiment down here. And honestly, that's it. That's how easy that card is. All the hard work is done for you in the cut file. But now you've got a little shaker for your Valentine. So be sure and grab this file. Like I said, it's just $1. You can find the link in the description and head over to my shop and grab this file. I have several other Valentine card SVGs if you want to do something different for each person in your family, or you could make a bunch of these. But happy Valentine's Day. Enjoy.